Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Meridian, watching the stars drift past the main screen. The ship had been traveling through space for 3 months now, carrying 50,000 sleeping people in its cold storage bays. They were all looking for a new home, somewhere far from the dying Earth they had left behind. "Commander, we're getting close to the Kepler 442 system," said Dr. Elena Rodriguez from her station. She was the ship's science officer, a woman with dark hair and tired eyes who had spent years studying planets that might be good for humans to live on. Jake nodded and walked over to look at her screen. The system had 4 planets, and the third one looked promising. It was the right size and the right distance from its sun. Maybe it would be their new home. "Run a full scan of the system," Jake said. "I want to know everything about those planets before we get any closer." Chief Engineer Ryan Murphy looked up from his controls. He was a big man with rough hands who had kept the ship running for the long journey. "All systems are working fine, Commander. The engines are running smooth, and the life support is holding steady." "Good," Jake said. "We can't afford any problems now. Not with all those people depending on us." The Meridian was huge, almost like a floating city. It had taken 20 years to build and cost more money than most countries had ever seen. But it was worth it. Earth was getting too hot, too crowded, and too dangerous. The air was bad, the water was dirty, and there were wars everywhere. The people on this ship were the lucky ones who had won the lottery to leave Dot as they got closer to the system. Elena's machine started picking up signals from the planets. Most of it was normal stuff, radio waves from the sun, magnetic fields, things like that. But then something strange showed up on her screen. "Commander, I'm getting an odd reading," Elena said, frowning at her computer. "There's some kind of signal coming from the 4th planet." Jake walked over to look. "What kind of signal?" "I'm not sure. It's not natural, that's for certain. It's too regular, too organized. Almost like—" She stopped and listened to something through her headphones. Her eyes went wide. "Like what?" Jake asked. Elena pulled off her headphones and turned up the speakers. The bridge filled with a sound that made everyone stop what they were doing. It was music. Beautiful, sad music played on a violin. The melody was soft and sweet, like something from the old Earth songs that Jake's grandmother used to play. "That's impossible," Ryan said, walking over to join them. "No human ships have ever been to this system. We checked all the records before we left Earth." The music continued to play, drifting through space like a ghost. It was the kind of song that made you think of home, of people you miss, of better times that might never come again. Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Elena, where exactly is this coming from?" he asked. She typed commands into her computer, trying to pinpoint the source. "It's coming from orbit around the 4th planet. There's something there, something small. Maybe a research station or a probe." "A probe doesn't play violin music," Ryan said. Jake stared at the screen, watching the small dot that represented whatever was out there. The music kept playing, lonely and beautiful in the empty space between worlds. It was like nothing he had ever heard before, but somehow it felt familiar. "Set course for the 4th planet," Jake said. "Whatever's out there, we need to find out what it is." "Sir, shouldn't we check the 3rd planet first?" Elena asked. "That's the one that might be good for the colony." Jake shook his head. That music didn't make itself. Someone or something is out there, and they might need help. We can't just ignore them. As the Meridian changed course, the violin music continued to play. It seemed to be telling a story about traveling far from home, about being alone in the dark, about hoping for something better just around the corner. The crew worked quietly, each lost in their own thoughts as they listened to the strange melody. Outside the windows, the stars watched silently, keeping their secrets. But somewhere in the darkness, someone was playing music, and that music was calling to them across the empty space between worlds. Jake had made thousands of decisions as a ship commander, but somehow he knew this one would change everything. The Meridian moved slowly toward the 4th planet, its sensors locked onto the source of the violin music. Jake stood on the bridge, watching the main screen as a small object came into view. It looked like a research station, the kind scientists used for long-term studies in deep space. "There it is," Elena said, pointing at the screen. "It's definitely human-made. Look at the design. That's Earth technology, maybe 20 or 30 years old." Ryan checked his instruments. "It's got power, life support, everything. Someone's living in there." Jake felt his heart beat faster. Finding other humans this far from Earth was like finding a needle in a haystack. "Can you scan for life signs?" "Already on it," Elena said. Her fingers moved across her keyboard. "I'm reading one human life form. Female, appears to be in good health." The violin music was getting stronger now, clearer. It was definitely coming from the station. Jake could make out the melody better. It was an old song from Earth, something about changes and time passing. His grandmother had played it on her old music player when he was little. "Commander, we're getting a communication request," said Lisa Park, the communications officer. She was young and nervous, fresh out of the academy. "Put it through," Jake said. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a woman with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She was maybe 30 years old, wearing a simple white shirt. Behind her, Jake could see the inside of the station, small but clean, with papers scattered on a desk and a violin hanging on the wall. "Hello," the woman said, smiling. "I wasn't expecting visitors." "I'm Dr. Karolina Volkov." Jake's mouth fell open. He knew that name. Everyone did. "Dr. Karolina Volkov?" Elena whispered. "But that's impossible. She disappeared 30 years ago on the deep space mission to Vega. She'd be 60 years old by now." The woman on the screen looked exactly like the pictures Jake had seen in history books. Karolina Volkov had been famous on Earth, a brilliant scientist who also played violin. She had volunteered for one of the first long-distance space missions, but her ship had vanished without a trace. "I know what you're thinking," Karolina said, still smiling. "You're wondering why I look the same as I did 30 years ago. It's a long story." "Dr. Volkov," Jake said, finding his voice. "I'm Commander Jake Harrison of the Earthship Meridian. We thought you were dead." "I thought I was dead too for a while," Karolina said. "My ship broke down near this system. I managed to reach this planet in an escape pod, but I was badly hurt. That's when I met the conductor." "The conductor?" Ryan asked. Karolina's eyes grew distant. "It's hard to explain. It's very old, older than our whole planet. It found me and fixed me up, but something happened during the process. I stopped aging. I've been here for 30 years, but my body thinks it's been 30 days. Jake exchanged looks with Elena. This was getting stranger by the minute. "What is this conductor?" Elena asked. "Is it human?" Karolina laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "No, definitely not human. Well, you could call it a collector. It collects music, art, stories from different worlds. It's been doing this for millions of years." "And it's been keeping you here all this time?" Jake asked. "Not keeping me prisoner, if that's what you mean," Karolina said. "I could leave any time I want, but where would I go? My ship is broken, and until you showed up, I was the only human for 1,000 light years." She picked up her violin and held it gently. "The conductor loves music, especially my violin playing. It says human music is different from anything it's ever heard before. Other species make music that follows rules, patterns, but human music changes all the time. It grows and becomes something new. We're carrying 50,000 colonists," Jake said. "We're looking for a new home. Is this planet safe?" Karolina shook her head. "This planet is just rock and ice. But there's something else here, something amazing. The conductor wants to meet you. It has a proposition for your people." "What kind?" "A proposition?" Elena asked. "The kind that could change the future of the human race," Karolina said. "But I should warn you, once you know what the conductor really is, You can never go back to thinking about the universe the same way. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They had come looking for a new planet to call home. Instead, Bay had found a woman who should be dead and something called the conductor that collected music from across the galaxy. "Can we come aboard your station?" Jake asked. Karolina nodded. "I'd like that. I haven't talked to another human in 30 years. And Commander, bring a few of your people. The conductor is very interested in meeting humans who travel between the stars." The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in silence except for the soft violin music still playing through the speakers. Jake chose 3 people to go with him to Karolina's station. Elena came because she was the science officer and could understand whatever they might find. Ryan came because he was good at fixing things and staying calm in strange situations. Lisa Park came because she spoke 5 languages and was good at talking to new people. The shuttle ride to the station was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what they might find. A woman who hadn't aged in 30 years and something called the conductor that collected music from dead worlds. It sounded like a story from a book, not real life. When they docked with the station, Karolina was waiting for them. She looked just like she had on the video screen, young and healthy. She shook hands with each of them, smiling like she was meeting old friends. "Welcome to my home," she said. "I know it's not much, but it's been good to me." The station was small but comfortable. There were books everywhere and musical instruments from Earth hanging on the walls. Jake saw guitars, flutes, and even an old piano in the corner. But what caught his attention most were the walls themselves. They seemed to glow softly with moving colors. "Those aren't normal walls," Elena said, walking over to touch one. "No, they're not," Karolina said. "The conductor made them. They show music as colors and shapes. Watch this." She picked up her violin and played a few notes. The walls lit up with dancing blue and gold patterns that moved with the music. "Amazing," Ryan whispered. "That's nothing," Karolina said. "Let me show you something really special." She led them to a room in the back of the station. In the center was a chair that looked like it was made of crystal and light. "This is how I talk to the conductor," Karolina said. "It's safe, but it feels strange the first time. Who wants to try?" Jake stepped forward. "I'll do it." "Just sit down and relax," Karolina said. "Don't fight it when you feel something in your mind. The conductor won't hurt you." Jake sat in the chair. At first, nothing happened. Then he felt a gentle touch in his thoughts, like someone tapping on the inside of his head. Suddenly, the room around him disappeared. He was floating in space, but not the cold, empty space he knew. This space was full of music. He could see it as ribbons of light stretching between the stars. Each ribbon was a different song, a different voice from somewhere in the galaxy. A presence spoke to him, not with words but with feelings and pictures in his mind. It was old, older than Earth, older than humans had even existed. It had been traveling through space since before the dinosaurs, collecting the last songs of dying worlds. Jake saw flashes of other planets, other species. A world of crystal people who sang with voices like wind chimes. An ocean planet where whale-like creatures made music with sound waves that could shake mountains. A desert world where tiny beings carved songs into sand that would play for 1,000 years. All of them were gone now. War, disease, old age, every species eventually disappeared. But their music lived on in the conductor's collection. "Why do you collect their songs?" Jake asked with his thoughts. The answer came as images and emotions. The conductor had been created by a species that died out billions of years ago. They knew they were going to disappear, so they made the conductor to remember them and all the beautiful things that would come after them. "But you're different," the conductor told him. "Human music changes. It grows. Other species make the same songs for thousands of years, but humans make new music every day." "Why?" Jake thought about it. "Because we change too. We're always becoming something new." "Yes," the conductor said. "That is why you are interesting. Most species we find are ready to die. They are tired, finished with growing, but humans are still becoming. The vision faded, and Jake found himself back in the chair. Elena, Ryan, and Lisa were looking at him with worried faces. "Are you okay?" Elena asked. "You were gone for almost an hour." "It felt like minutes," Jake said. He looked at Karolina. "The conductor has been alone for billions of years, watching everything die." Karolina nodded. "It's not evil, just very sad. It's been waiting for a species that might be different, that might not give up and fade away like all the others." "And it thinks we might be that species?" Ryan asked. "Maybe," Karolina said. "But there's something else. The conductor isn't just collecting music anymore. It's looking for a species that can help it understand why beauty exists in a universe full of death and darkness." Jake stood up slowly, his mind still spinning from what he had seen. Outside the station, the Meridian waited with its 50,000 sleeping people. They were all looking for a new home, a new life. But maybe they had found something much more important. "The conductor wants to meet all of us, doesn't it?" Jake said. Karolina smiled sadly. "Yes, and when it does, it's going to ask us to make a choice that no human has ever had to make before." When Jake and his team returned to the Meridian, alarms were ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the hallways, and crew members were running to their stations. Something was very wrong. "What's happening?" Jake asked as soon as he stepped onto the bridge. "Life support is failing," said Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's medical officer. She was a small woman with gray hair who had taken care of the crew for the whole journey. "We started losing power about an hour ago. The air recycling systems are shutting down." Jake felt his heart sink. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 hours before the air gets too thin to breathe," Amy said. "The sleeping colonists will start waking up when their pods lose power. We'll have 50,000 people and not enough air for all of them." Ryan was already at his engineering station, typing commands as fast as he could. "I can't find the problem," he said. "Everything should be working." "Fine, but the main power core is acting like it's 100 years old instead of new." Elena was scanning the ship with her instruments. "Commander, this is strange. The metal in our hull is breaking down at the molecular level. It's like the ship is aging faster than it should." Jake thought about what the conductor had shown him. All those dead civilizations and their final songs. "Get me a connection to Karolina's station," he said. A few minutes later, Karolina's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Jake could see the walls of her station still glowing with soft colors. "Commander, what's wrong?" she asked. "You look worried." "Our ship is dying," Jake said. "The life support is failing, and we don't know why." Karolina's face went pale. "Oh no, I should have warned you. Being too close to the conductor can have effects on technology that isn't prepared for it." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "The conductor exists partly in our normal space and partly in other dimensions," Karolina explained. "Its presence can speed up time for some things. That's probably what's happening to your ship. Can you fix it?" Ryan asked. Karolina was quiet for a moment. "Maybe, but the conductor will want something in return." Jake knew what she meant. "The choice you mentioned." "Yes," Karolina said. "The conductor has been waiting to test humanity. It wants to see if you can solve a problem that has no normal solution, using both logic and something more." "We don't have time for tests," Amy said. "People are going to start dying. The test is the only way to save them," Karolina said. "The conductor will stop the aging effect on your ship, but only if humanity proves it's worth saving." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were good people, smart and brave. But 50,000 lives were depending on them now. "What kind of test?" he asked. "I'll need to come to your ship," Karolina said, "and I'll need to bring my violin. The test involves music, mathematics, and something the conductor calls creative harmony." An hour later, Karolina was on the Meridian. She had brought her violin and some strange equipment from her station. She set up in the ship's main engineering room, where Ryan was still trying to fix the power core. "This won't work like normal engineering," she told the gathered crew. "The conductor wants to see if humans can think beyond just logic and rules." She began to play her violin. The music was soft and sad, like the songs Jake remembered from Earth. But as she played, something strange happened. The lights in engineering began to pulse in time with the music. "Elena, I need you to watch the molecular scanners," Karolina said while still playing. "Ryan, adjust the power frequency to match the rhythm of the music. Don't think about why it should work. Just feel what the ship needs." Elena stared at her instruments. "This is crazy. Music can't fix machines." "Maybe it can't," Karolina said. "But maybe the combination of music and human creativity can do things that logic alone cannot." Ryan began adjusting controls, following the rhythm of Karolina's violin. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, the power readings began to stabilize. "It's working," Elena whispered. "The molecular breakdown is slowing down." Other crew members joined in, each following their instincts rather than their training. Amy monitored the life support systems and made small adjustments based on how the music made her feel. Lisa coordinated communications, making sure everyone could hear Karolina's violin throughout the ship. As the music continued, Jake realized what was happening. The conductor wasn't just testing their ability to solve problems. It was testing whether humans could work together using both their minds and their hearts. "The power core is stabilizing," Ryan announced. "Life support is back to normal levels." Karolina stopped playing, but the effects continued. The ship felt different now, stronger somehow. "We passed the test," Jake said. Karolina smiled. "The first test. But the conductor has more questions for humanity, and the biggest choice is still coming." After the ship was fixed, Jake called a meeting with his senior officers. They gathered in the conference room, still trying to understand what had happened in engineering. The ship felt different now, like it was humming with an energy that hadn't been there before. "I've been running tests on the repairs," Elena said, looking at her tablet with confusion. "What we did shouldn't have worked. Music doesn't have the power to fix broken machines." "But it did work," Ryan said. "The power core is running better than it has since we left Earth. Some of the damaged parts actually look new again." Karolina sat at the end of the table, her violin case beside her. "It's not magic," she said. "It's physics that we don't understand yet. The conductor taught me a little about it over the years." "What kind of physics?" Elena asked. "Everything in the universe vibrates," Karolina explained. "Atoms, molecules, even the empty space between stars. Most species learn to use these vibrations for simple things like communication or moving objects, but humans do something different." She opened her violin case and took out her instrument. "When I play, I'm not just making sound waves. I'm creating patterns that match the natural vibrations of matter itself. The conductor calls it harmonic resonance." Jake leaned forward. "Are you saying human music can actually change things at the atomic level?" "Not all human music," Karolina said, "but music that comes from real emotion, real creativity. That kind of music creates vibrations that can heal, repair, even restore things to their original state." Elena shook her head. "That's impossible. If that were true, we would have discovered it years ago." "Would we?" Karolina asked. "How often do scientists play violin while they work? How often do engineers sing while they fix machines?" "We keep music and science separate, but maybe they're meant to work together." She lifted her violin and began to play a soft melody. As the notes filled the room, Jake noticed something strange. A crack in the conference table that had been there for months was slowly disappearing. "Look at the table," he whispered. Everyone stared as the crack sealed itself, the wood becoming smooth and new again. The violin music seemed to be telling the broken pieces how to come back together. "This is what the conductor has been studying," Karolina said, still playing. Human music doesn't just follow mathematical patterns like other species. It changes based on how we feel, what we've experienced, what we hope for. That emotional component creates quantum resonances that can actually repair damage. Ryan stood up and walked over to a broken chair in the corner. It had been damaged during their journey and was waiting to be thrown away. "Play something for this," he said. Karolina changed her melody to something hopeful and strong. The broken chair began to straighten itself. Cracked plastic became solid again. Loose screws tightened themselves. The conductor has been waiting millions of years for a species that could do this naturally, Karolina said. Most civilizations learn to make music that sounds pleasant, but human music actually has power because it comes from our ability to feel and dream. Elena was taking readings with her scanner. The quantum signatures are incredible. The chair isn't just fixed. It's like it was never broken at all. This is why the conductor is interested in us, Jake realized. We're not just another species that makes noise. We make music that can change reality. But there's more, Karolina said, lowering her violin. The conductor showed me recordings of the last songs from thousands of dying worlds. Most species, when they know they're about to become extinct, their music becomes sad and final. They accept their death. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. But human music, even when we're facing the end, still has hope in it. We keep believing things can get better. That hope, that refusal to give up, it creates the strongest resonances of all. So we can literally heal things with music? Amy asked. Heal people? Heal planets? Maybe, Karolina said. But only if we stay human. Only if we keep feeling, keep hoping, keep changing. The moment we become static like other species, we lose this power. Jake thought about the 50,000 people sleeping in the ship's storage bays. They were all refugees from a dying world, but they hadn't given up. They were still looking for a better future. The conductor wants to preserve this ability, he said. Karolina nodded. But preservation and growth don't always go together. The conductor knows how to keep species alive forever, but its methods might change what makes us human in the first place. And that's the choice we have to make, Elena said. Yes, Karolina said. Do we stay human and risk extinction, or do we accept the conductor's protection and possibly lose what makes our music special? Outside the conference room, the repaired ship hummed with new energy. In the distance, the conductor waited patiently. Among the stars, ready to offer humanity a bargain that would determine the future of their species and their songs. The next morning, Karolina led Jake and his team to her station's main room. She sat in the crystal chair and placed her hand on a glowing panel beside it. The walls around them lit up with images and sounds from across the galaxy. The conductor wants to show you something, she said. The history of other species who face the same choice you're about to face. The first image showed a world covered in beautiful cities made of living crystal. Tall, graceful beings moved between the structures, their bodies shimmering like rainbows. The Azanti, Karolina said. They discovered harmonic resonance 3 million years ago. Their music could grow cities, heal sickness, even bring back the dead. They were the most advanced species the conductor had ever found. Jake watched as the crystal beings gathered in great circles, singing together. Their voices created waves of light that spread across their planet, making flowers bloom and broken things whole again. What happened to them? Elena asked. They chose preservation, Karolina said. When their sun began to die, the conductor offered to save them. They accepted. The image changed. Now the crystal beings were inside a massive space station, similar to the one Jake had seen in his vision. They were still singing, but their songs never changed. The same melodies, the same harmonies, over and over for thousands of years. There. Still alive, Karolina said. But they stopped growing, stopped creating new music. They became perfect, but they also became frozen. The conductor preserved them exactly as they were. More images followed. A world of plant-like creatures who could make music with their leaves. An ocean planet where whale-like beings sang storms in the stillness. A desert world where tiny creatures wrote songs in the sand that could make water flow uphill. All of them had made the same choice. All of them had chosen safety over growth. And the ones who chose to keep growing? Jake asked. The images became darker. Planets destroyed by war. Species that had learned to weaponize their music, turning healing songs into weapons. Civilizations that had grown too fast and burned themselves out. Most of them died, Karolina said sadly. The universe is a dangerous place. Species that keep changing, keep taking risks, usually don't survive very long. But some did? Ryan asked. A few, Karolina said. The conductor has records of maybe 5 species in the entire galaxy that chose growth and managed to survive. But even they eventually faded away or evolved into something completely different. Amy leaned forward. So we're looking at a choice between certain survival and probable death? That's one way to see it, Karolina said. But there's another way. The preserved species are safe, but they're no longer truly alive. They exist, but they don't live. Jake thought about the colonists sleeping in the Meridian. They had left Earth because they wanted something better, something new. Would they want to be preserved forever? Or would they want to keep trying to build a better future? How much time do we have to decide? He asked. Not much, Karolina said. The conductor is patient, but your ship's presence is affecting the quantum fields around this planet. Other species have been drawn to this kind of energy before. If you stay too long, you might attract attention from things that aren't as friendly as the conductor. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Karolina's eyes went wide as she looked at her instruments. What is it? Jake asked. Ships, Karolina said. 3 of them, coming fast from the edge of the system. They're not human. Elena was already scanning with her equipment. They're big, heavily armed. And they're heading straight for us. Jake felt his heart racing. Who are they? The Harvesters, Karolina said, her voice barely a whisper. They're one of the few species that chose growth over preservation. But they survived by taking what they needed from other worlds. They've been searching for species with harmonic resonance abilities. They want to steal our music? Ryan asked. They want to steal us, Karolina said. They'll capture humans and force them to make music for the Harvester's own purposes. They've done it to other species before. The station shook as the alien ships got closer. Jake could see them now on the main screen, dark, angular vessels that looked like they were built for war. We have to get back to the Meridian, Jake said. We have to warn the colonists. There's no time, Karolina said. They'll be here in minutes. The conductor is offering us his protection, but we have to choose now, preservation or freedom. Jake looked at his team. Elena was scared but determined. Ryan was already thinking about how to fight. Amy was worried about the sleeping colonists. Lisa was trying to contact the Meridian. Commander, Lisa said, I'm getting reports from the ship. The colonists are starting to wake up early. Something about the quantum fields is affecting their sleep pods. 50,000 people, Jake whispered. All depending on what we decide in the next few minutes. The Harvester ships were almost at the planet now. Jake could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on him. Save humanity by accepting the conductor's offer, or risk everything on the chance that they could find their own way to survive. What do you think the colonists would want? Elena asked. Jake thought about the families, the children, the elderly people who had trusted him to find them a new home. They had already taken the biggest risk of all by leaving Earth. I think, Jake said slowly, they'd want us to choose freedom. The Harvester ships were almost at the planet when Jake made his decision. But it wasn't a decision anyone expected. Karolina, can you connect me to the conductor? He asked. Jake, we don't have time, Elena said. Those ships will be here any minute. Trust me, Jake said. He sat in the crystal chair and felt the familiar touch in his mind as the conductor's presence filled his thoughts. You offer us 2 choices, Jake said to the ancient being. Safety or freedom? But humans don't always take the choices we're given. Sometimes we make our own. The conductor's curiosity flowed through Jake's mind like warm water. What do you propose? We'll leave this system and continue our journey to find a new home, Jake said. But we'll take something with us. Copies of all the music and art you've collected from dead civilizations. And we'll leave something behind, copies of our own music and stories. I do not understand, the conductor said. You've been alone for billions of years, watching everything die. But what if death doesn't have to be the end? What if the songs can live on in new ways? Jake felt the conductor's attention focus on him completely. Continue. We'll carry the music of dead worlds to new places. When we meet other species, we'll share these songs with them. The civilizations you preserved won't be forgotten. They'll inspire new music, new art, new ideas. The idea was growing stronger in Jake's mind. And if humanity does survive, if we spread across the galaxy, we'll tell every species we meet about the conductor. You won't be alone anymore. You'll have partners, friends, people who understand what you're trying to do. Through the station's windows, Jake could see the harvester ships getting closer. Their dark hulls reflected no light, like holes in space. Itself. And if you die like the others? The conductor asked. Then at least we'll die trying to make the universe a better place, Jake said. Isn't that better than living forever without hope? There was a long pause. Then Jake felt something. He had never expected from the ancient being laughter. Not mean laughter, but the kind of laughter that comes from seeing something wonderful and unexpected. No species has ever proposed partnership, the conductor said. They either accept preservation or choose isolation, but you suggest cooperation. That's what humans do best, Jake said. We work together. The harvester ships were entering the planet's atmosphere now. Jake could see them on the station screens, moving like dark birds toward their location. Very well, the conductor said. But first, let me show you what partnership means. Suddenly, the space around the planet filled with light. Massive structures rose from the planet's core. Not ships, but something like musical instruments, the size of mountains. The conductor had been hiding its true form. The mountain-sized instruments began to play. The music was unlike anything Jake had ever heard. It was the combined songs of 1,000,000 dead worlds, all playing together in perfect harmony. The sound waves spread through space like ripples in a pond. When the music reached the harvester ships, something incredible happened. The dark vessels began to change. Their angular, warlike shapes softened and curved. The weapons on their hulls transformed into something that looked like art. What's happening to them? Elena asked. The healing frequencies, Karolina said with wonder. The conductor is healing the harvesters too. The alien ships landed peacefully on the planet's surface. Through the station's communications, Jake heard voices, the harvesters trying to speak to them. But they weren't threatening anymore. They sounded confused, like people waking up from a bad dream. They were broken, the conductor explained. To Jake, their species chose growth but lost their way. The music reminded them of what they used to be. Over the next few hours, everything changed. The harvesters, it turned out, had once been artists and musicians like humans. But centuries of war and survival had made them forget their own songs. The conductor's music brought back their memories. Jake returned to the Meridian to find the colonists awake and excited. The music from the planet had reached them too, and they felt hopeful for the first time since leaving Earth. So what happens now? Elena asked as they prepared to leave the system. Now we explore, Jake said. We find new worlds, meet new species, and share the music we've learned. The conductor will stay here, but it won't be alone anymore. It has partners across the galaxy. Karolina decided to stay with the conductor, but not as a prisoner. She would be an ambassador, helping to heal other broken species and teaching them about the power of music. As the Meridian prepared to leave, she played one final song on her violin. It was the same melody they had first heard when they entered the system, but now it sounded different. It sounded like a beginning instead of an ending. "The night changes," she said to Jake before they parted. "Everything changes. But some things, hope, music, the connections between people, those things are eternal." The Meridian sailed away toward distant stars, carrying 50,000 dreamers and the songs of 1,000,000 dead worlds. Behind them, the conductor continued its ancient work, but now it had hoped that the universe might be full of music instead of silence. And in the darkness between stars, new songs were being born.